Greetings and welcome to Star Trek Discovery Pod, a sometimes funny, trying to be smart podcast covering all things new and classic Trek. Tonight, we are engaging in some deep investigative holodecks into Deep Space Nine.
There we go. We got
We
it.
got
We're
it.
back, guys. 2025, baby. We're firing all zero cylinders, all through the cells.
Zero nacelles today.
All through the cells here. Bam, bam.
Bam, bam, bam. It's been a rough day to do anything. Just for my brain. I am your Captain Mariah Gossett. With me on the view screen we have
Eject the core, pause to touch it. Boom.
Woo! We were pretty sure Clyde is just stuck in the pattern buffer, but we'll let y'all know as soon as we get a communique in on our computers. As I mentioned, we are diving into Deep Space Nine. We're talking about the introduction of Section 31 from the episode Inquisition. This was from season 6, episode 18, and it was directed by Michael Dorn and written by Bradley Thompson and David Waddell. And it first aired on April 8th, 1998. So we're going back in time.
It's really interesting because, only 3 years later, that was when I got married.
Oh, wow. Look at that.
Yeah, like that.
Anniversary edition.
And, for those who may be surprised, I'm still married to the same person.
We'll all keep our thoughts to ourselves because I'm just kidding. Did you make any Happy New Year, Paul, officially?
Happy New Year, right? And everyone
listening, hanging out with us tonight on the live stream. We're so glad you're here. We hope everyone had a safe and warm holiday season. I know technically the Yule season continues. Did you know that the tradition of make the Yuletide gay goes through the first 3 weeks of January?
No, but that's why it ends with Sundance or something.
I guess so. Yeah, Sundance is the traditional ending to the holiday season.
That's right.
That is when that occurs. Did you do anything fun that you wanted to share on pod?
Did I do anything fun? Yeah, a friend of mine was visiting Los Angeles, and she is never here for Thanksgiving. And on occasion, what I'll do is a Thanksgiving progressive. Like, one of the things that I don't really enjoy is turkey. And more than not enjoying turkey is washing dishes. So generally it also means cooking. So for Thanksgiving, that's my worst,
combination.
Yeah, because people think oh, Paul, you eat a lot. Full stop. You must like Thanksgiving. You go, no, that's not exactly the case. The food is not, exactly what I'd like. And there's this obligation where people expect me to bring things and make things and put love into my food. I don't know what that is.
You didn't make one of your famous cheesecakes?
I did not, because this year, for Thanksgiving, we just had dim sum and duck and Peking duck. But anyway, my friend not being around, generally, she goes hey, since I'm here in town, why don't I go on a progressive? Why don't you take me on a progressive? And I go, okay, sure. So what we did is we went to Fancy Pants Deli Bakery at 9 a.m. and then walked around Venice Beach.
Nice.
Then we went and got Korean barbecue, and then
Excellent.
And then we drove to Monterey Park, which is the Asian part of the San Gabriel Valley. Is very Asian-y, but they have Japanese souffle pancakes.
Oh wow!
Which we got there. Waited an hour and a half for those, and then we went to a Wicked sing along.
Fun.
I was defying
gravity.
And then we went to a place that serves what's called a pan roast. It's called the Dive Oyster Bar. But in Vegas, there is a restaurant called the Oyster Bar in the Palace Station. It's in the middle of the casino, and it serves this Louisiana Cajun inspired dish that is basically imagine the most delicious tomato seafood bisque on and it and yeah, and then and that was very good.
That sounds great.
Yeah, that's what I did.
Yeah, I mostly cooked. So I made 3 lasagnas on Christmas.
It's like, what's it? It's like, partridge in pear tree, 2 turtle doves, 3 lasagnas,
Yeah,
3 fake lasagnas.
it was good. There was a lot of pie and other sweet treats as well. So I think I finally have made it through all of the cookies in my house. It
Oh,
was a
good.
task.
That's good, that's good, that's good.
Well, happy holidays to everyone. Hope you're staying warm and or if you're in the other half of the hemisphere, you're staying cool and having some fun beach days. Okay.
Wait, you're in Texas, right?
Mhm.
Like, so I saw on, social media, there was, like, this huge pileup, like, at on Dallas Fort Worth, like, have you seen this? Like
I
like
mean,
like
that doesn't sound untrue. I haven't seen it
like
specifically,
like,
but
it looked
Dallas Fort
rainy.
Worth is nothing but highway overpasses, so
Like, it looked like what happened was, like, it looked like someone, like, was part of the pilot. They got out of the car, and they were just filming, and then all of a sudden, you just see all these other people piling in, and it was, like, the most crazy
wow.
thing because I've never been part of a pileup, and I've never seen it before.
Well, now luckily through social media, we can all be a part of it.
It was crazy, like,
That's not
anyway, so and it happened, the beginning of the year. So, like,
okay.
January 1st. So, like, for some
Oh, wow.
people, that
It
really
was the
would have
start
been
of their year, yeah.
I know,
Oof.
strength and honor.
Strength and honor. If you are listening to us tonight, please make sure you're subscribed on Apple, Spotify, or YouTube. All the links are at StarTrekPod.co. You can also hang out with us over on the Patreon and get access to our community Slack. Paul, how can people engage with us if they're watching live, if they have questions, comments, or things they want us to pay attention to in the
Well, like,
chat?
you can, like, I suppose I should remind listeners that if you're watching us live tonight on YouTube, please participate in the live chat. So we're doing something different. That we're asking you to participate.
Mhm.
If you have a comment, like, just type in. Let's see, and if you have a comment or question you might want to address later on the pod, just type in the word "pod" in all caps before you comment, so we can all see it. And see, this is not. I'm not totally incompetent. This is normally Clyde's bit.
Yeah.
So
And
like,
you've heard it so many times.
and it's true. And I've ignored it so many times.
Wow.
So that now I'm finding my what do you call it? Anyway, that's how
You're
you do it.
finding your pacing, your
Capital
footing
P,
here.
capital O, capital D, pod. Ironically, I could probably do the Clyde shtick. Well, what you gotta do is send by carrier pigeon. Blah blah
Mhm.
blah. But yes.
Be
Anyway,
the little device implanted behind Bashir's ear, and then we will find it.
hundo.
Yes, yes. Okay, well, with that said, I do think it is time for us to have some, I mean, I guess because this is an older episode,
Cold freight.
it's time for a cold break.
Cold Frake.
What did you think of this episode, Paul?
Like, I've only seen it like maybe 17 times, in my life.
Thanks.
So it holds up. Like, I'm a big section 13 and 31 fan. Like,
You
uh
love Section 13.
and this was the introduction of them, and it's one of those things where I think like it's like Odo. My favorite line in the show, not necessarily for dialogue, but just for like world, is like Odo goes like Bashir goes, "Oh, like I can't believe that, like, that the Federation would have a place like that, an organization like this." And Odo goes like, "Well, uh,
Everyone has one.
I can't believe that they don't. Like, every great power has one. Like, Tal
Mhm.
Shiar, Obsidian Order." And you're like, "Yeah, yeah." Like, you say it, Odo. Like, you
You
jaded
that we all
changeling.
need corruption. Yeah.
Like, so it's one of those things where I was like, oh, it does. In some ways, it makes the world of Star Trek a little more 3D. like a little more real in some ways, and that's why one of the reasons why I really love Deep Space Nine in general is because like it gave like the texture of like the price of paradise.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's kind of like, oh, if you have uh this idea that everything just happens by the book, right? Like
Mhm.
often that is not true.
And it'd be nice if it was, and I think a lot of people like should believe that it does, but like and this is what the section 13 and 31 would go. It's like you know I'm glad there are people like you, but you need people like me.
Yeah, I couldn't remember if I had seen this episode before. It felt like one maybe that I'd had on in the background at some point because things felt familiar. But so it was definitely the first time I had like sat and watched this episode. It was definitely like I think because there wasn't really a B story
Hmm.
to the episode, it did feel a little long for me. But
Sure.
I think I thought it was a compelling story and it was like interesting and like I enjoy things that are like spy
Hmm.
espionage type things as well. I mean, I think it's interesting how much we as a society, I think, love content like this. I mean, between like Bond and like to modern like Slow Horses and like
Hmm.
all of these different shows that are essentially about secret operations of like people who know better than we do to make the world a better place,
Sure.
right? But so often is so tied to like who's paying for this to be the better place. Womp womp.
Yeah.
What the FBI tracking and killing civil rights people just as a casual example of these quote unquote secret agencies doing the bidding of our government. Yeah, I don't know. I'm on like too many conspiracy like
Yeah. Apparently, like
TikTok.
like yes, there have been one or two
One or two.
assassinations.
There's been one or two government infiltrations and,
But like, like there's what you call it? You don't talk about the good side of like covert, secret, clandestine, oftentimes illegal organizations. Never do you talk about that, Mariah. You're always like poo
never.
poo. I mean, everything has a dark side, even the Federation.
Yeah. I know, and I think that's what's interesting is that even in this, like, quote, unquote, "utopian future," right,
Mhm.
that there is this, established idea that there is a group of people who are working on behalf of the organization, and they have to do it in this secret covert way because if it was made public how they had to get these things done, like, people would poo-poo it.
Yeah, no, it's tough. It's tough. Like I think I always feel like there are only like 4 episodes with like well, I take that back. There are let's see. We have
It's definitely something they're like, "Oh, we don't wanna have to get too deep, I think, into the morals of Section 31," which I think is interesting then for them to pivot, like
mhm,
the upcoming movie that was originally supposed to be a show. I
yeah,
wonder how much they felt like pivoting to a movie actually gives them a bit more control of the narrative to not have to change too much. I think of like the canon ideal I can't talk anymore. Ideals of Starfleet.
uh, like I imagine like there's probably some aspect where Michelle Yeoh just became too busy,
Yeah, that
you know.
too.
But I will say that like what I really like about the introduction of 31
Mhm.
into the Star Trek universe is its simplicity on how it how basically it asserts itself as far as like, oh, you kind of need me and you might not like me, but but you need me.
It is interesting too that they like cite back to like, oh, the charter
Hmm.
of the
Yeah.
Federation is like what establishes us, right? And that
Hmm.
we don't really have anyone we have to report to in order to do our work. Um, what did you think of Luther Sloan as sort of our introductory agent of Section 31?
Like I always love Sloan. Like like
Mhm.
he's in 3 episodes in all of Deep Space Nine, and he
We're
always
gonna watch all of them. Spoiler alert for anyone
again.
who's. We're gonna watch all of them
Yeah,
in prep for Section 31. Yeah.
and like and there's something about the way that his face looks like a skull. Like he has
It's
like the
very
most
like Willem, like old Willem Dafoe, like,
yeah,
you
and
know,
his cheekbones are so like like they are. It's just in a way where you look at him and he's a good looking enough dude, and he also looks like a skeleton, and and it goes like that. And the way that
yeah.
he portrays the character, I love it.
Yeah, William Sadler, who plays the character, I think he's really like well cast
Hmm.
as and often cast as a villain. Excuse me. So like he was most recently in Salem's Lot, which is like a horror show, and like he's been, yeah, in a lot of things as like the bad guy of the week,
Hmm.
I'd say in a lot of procedural shows, which feels, I think, correct.
No, like
He plays good bad, like
it,
he plays good bad villain, yeah.
yeah, like it's and I think this is probably when I think of him, like I've seen him in many things, but when I think of him, I go, oh, that's Sloan.
Well, it's possible, I think, based on time, depending on when depending on when Giorgio shows back up in her correct
Hmm.
timeline. I'm assuming she's going fairly far back. Do you think we'll get to see a young Sloane?
Maybe like for some reason I imagine every time like you go in time, my
Mhm.
my my thought process is now so jaded. I go like, oh, what's the cheapest place to go in time? The present.
Yes, that's true.
And so I go like, oh, is there some temporal war type aspect about it that I don't know. Like
Yeah.
I'm hopeful.
Yeah, it would be interesting. Um, I am not as like familiar with like Bashir's whole backstory just because Deep Space, like I haven't watched as much Deep Space Nine as like Voyager or TNG. Um, so what do you like think of, or what was your initial thought, if you can remember back to like a first watch of this,
Mhm.
of like this accusation against Bashir?
And that's really like so like this is I'm gonna go backwards a little bit to in order to go.
Hmm.
So first of all, like Bashir was annoying as hell the first 2 seasons. There just wasn't a lot to him.
Mm,
And partly is because like he kind of plays like the idealist,
hmm.
and like when you're on in the Federation, an idealist isn't actually really what's the word interesting. But like when confronted with war, that pushes an idealist in a way that
Right.
is and so now with an enemy and stuff like that, like so one of the things that happened was he got abducted by the Dominion,
Hmm.
uh and and shortly after that it was revealed that he had spent this whole time as a genetically enhanced person,
Like number one.
like number one,
Hmm.
and so I suppose in that way, like you're watching it and you're going like, oh, when you watch that episode, you go like, oh, well, that's weird. Like you're like, oh, that like I wouldn't have guessed that he was like like, and are they undoing? Nope, they're just gonna go with it.
Hmm.
And then they choose to go with like this is new canon now. He is genetically engineered, and so for it to happen to Bashir again, where you go like, oh, and he,
And
uh,
now he's a spy,
yeah,
like,
and you go like, oh, that could work. Like
right.
like
Like
and the
he's
way
lied before, or like this, this feature about him has been withheld from us before, so it
E
could be possible again.
exactly, and what was very interesting is that, like, the way that they logic it out is well within his character of,
Right.
so you're, like, going, "Oh, well, yeah, true, true." Like, like, how would you know? And so, like, I don't know if I would say it would be, like, 90% sure that it wasn't correct and 10% sure that, that, like, it could go that way, but if you were to do it with any other character, like, "Oh, well, actually, Cisco's a spy," like
Hmm.
like, that like, that it's not gonna work, right?
Right. You're like, oh, this is like, yeah, the
Yeah,
obvious red
oh,
herring or
oh,
whatever.
no, he got abducted by an entity, like, and
Yeah.
interestingly enough, though, they did an episode, a little bit of a reverse episode, like, different than this, not reverse, but, like, where, like, Chief O'Brien is running around thinking that the whole crew has been abducted and, like, uh, or, like, basically the whole senior staff has been abducted or something, not abducted,
Hmm.
like, taken over because everyone's acting all sketchy.
Mm-hmm.
And come to find out the end that uh, Chief O'Brien was not actually Chief O'Brien. He was a clone that was designed to kill someone, but he didn't know that he was a clone. And so, like, and what had happened was, like, the senior staff and all that, like, knew that this was a clone and they're trying to contain him.
Oh, interesting.
And so, like, Deep Space Nine does have a
Yeah.
history of playing around with the storytelling in a way that is, so it was like,
It can be more surprising. I think that's why it is probably like anytime I've gone back and we've done like these more classic rewatches, I'd say I think Deep Space Nine usually holds up, I think, the best over
Mhm.
time. Um,
You're not defending, like, Paris and, like, Janeway kids, Salamander kids.
you know, if I want a good, there's differences between a good time and a thoughtful time. Okay. um, I did want to bring up though, I think for me, the moment I was like, oh, I mean, like,
These glasses will not fit in a VR set, by the way. Like,
we have a comment from EAE. Interesting combo, guys. With Sally, the only thing I'm focusing on is how Paul's glasses would not fit inside a modern VR headset. I don't think mine would either. I don't know if any glasses really do well. But
but mine
when
are
Bash-
effectively a VR headset on
yeah,
their own.
they just need like the slap-ons.
Yeah.
But when O'Brien shows up on that video screen and he's
Mhm.
like, eye line isn't matching up to talk to Bashir, was like the moment I was like, something is up. Like, this
This,
isn't, in my mind, I was like, oh, this isn't real O'Brien, which obviously it wasn't.
sure.
But it was just like, it was an interesting, like, touch. I was like, oh, are they doing that on purpose? Like, that he's not looking at camera? Like, it seems very strange. Um, when for you did you start to suspect that potentially things were awry, if you will?
I think, the the place where it winds up being, before the reveal, the
Mhm.
place where I go, like, oh, this is not right, is when Dax goes, like, how could you, Julian? And they're like, that's not how that's not how
That's
Dax would
not,
act. But it's
yeah.
pretty late. It's pretty late into it, like, but, like, everyone else is acting pretty much on par for what I expected them.
Y-
Maybe, like, when Worf and Kira pick him up, like,
mhm.
uh
Yeah.
they're a little brusque. Is that the right word?
Yeah, I don't think I was like, "Oh, this is a full, like, hologram situation," until, like, once they, like, get him off of the fake Dominion ship or
Mhm.
whatever, but the minute he was teleported onto a Dominion ship, I was like, "Oh, this isn't real. Either these are all people in costumes," I was like, or,
Really? Well,
um, like, I was like, "This feels too convenient that they'd be able to,
sure.
like, beam him out of the brig or whatever." Like, that just seems too crazy to me.
Yeah, yeah, like, I guess, sure. Like, here, if I was to really, really be nitpicky about it, when I should have really noticed is when they beamed them out and uh what you call it, the Defiant caught up.
Hmm.
Because Dominion transport technology is such that you could beam from like star systems away.
Right. They didn't have to be that close.
Yeah, so that was, I was like, oh, if I look back, if I was watching with the best pair of Paul base
VR
glasses,
glasses.
that's
Yeah.
right. Yeah, I would have been able to. I should have been able to see that.
Yeah. I did think I enjoyed that this episode did also have a few like small comedic beats as well, which I think is like part of the reason that Deep Space Nine holds up in some ways, that it does, I think, keep a bit of a like wink wink nudge nudge about
A little
things, and
camp.
a little camp, right?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, like enough to keep it fun and like in the way that I think a lot of people enjoy like Doctor Who kind of
Sure,
stuff, right?
Like,
Um,
what campy thing did you like here?
I
The
mean,
guy.
when he was like, I can't believe it's already 7 a.m. or whatever. And he's like, computer, confirm the time. And he's like, I'm so grumpy. Meh, meh, meh. And then like the breakfast switch up.
That's right. The Gok.
It's too early for Gok. Like, you know, like that's funny and cute and silly. And then, you know, even when he's like questioning the fake O'Brien, when he's like, you did it with racquetball. You know, it's like such funny choices.
We heard it when we were playing spring ball.
Yeah, it's like these funny like little like, oh, like I don't know. It's like very kitschy. I enjoyed it. And then I did think it was a fun reveal to kind of also add to the like uh overall mystery of Section 31, that they have this kind of technology capable to them, that they're like, oh yeah, we beamed you out when you're supposed to be at this medical conference, and so people aren't going to realize that you're missing, and then like actually you've been held in here, and of course you'd only been sleeping for an hour, and like it was truly sleep deprivation, and like we're starving you, and you're just like, oh, we're going to hit all the check boxes of like
Yeah, no.
probably the Geneva Conventions of torture, you know?
Like it's
I agree with Kuhn, though. He
pre-war.
should have eaten some gach. I would have liked to have seen that.
I don't know. Like, I don't
Oh,
know.
Kuhn also makes an interesting point that Sloane is way smarter than Leland. I would also
Yeah,
agree
Leland
with
was
that.
not. Like Leland was like. I like my villains smart.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think like villains who are bullies or just they just, it seems like a waste. Whereas like you have a
I
smart
need some
villain.
twirly mustache plans. You know, I need the plans that make the twirling of the mustache worth
Well,
the twirlies, you know?
well, I guess the way I would put it, I mean, yes, and like if someone's gonna go through all whatever these machinations to like change, destroy, whatever the world, like you kind of want that person to have a vision of what the world should be.
Right. It's like, what's your why? What's the
Yeah,
motivation here?
and like when you look at Leland, I go like, I don't know what your why is. You're just like
Yeah.
kind of saying like, oh, Section 31, Section 31, and then
Mm-hmm.
the most interesting about you is when you got implanted.
Yeah, truly. With Sloane, it is interesting to me, like we didn't really get much of like an inciting incident for this investigation. You
Mhm.
know, it was just kind of like, oh,
Sure.
we think that there's this thing, but I'm like, well, why do you think that there's this thing? Like there was never anything really given over to us of like why this investigation needed to happen in the first place. Like there wasn't some, you know, I feel like usually there's like some announcement of like news from the battlefield, like a thing
Sure.
has happened and it's because we think there's a leak, or you know, or this thing happened and everyone's like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that thing happened, and then it's like, oh, it's because there's been a leak and this is why we think that thing happened. I
Well,
felt like that was missing for me.
I think they tried to make it a little more subtle in this episode, where they go like, oh, my son was killed in a transport, and so like
Hmm.
it kind of looked, you could have kind of played it like a personal vendetta.
Hmm.
And so like they didn't play that up, but like I feel like the seeds of it were kind of there.
Yeah, for Sloane personally. Yeah.
Exactly. And,
Yeah.
and so and ultimately that kind of like I remember, like, I remember when I watched this episode in 98, where I was like, oh, I don't know where this is going. Is Sloan trying to frame Bashir?
Like, is
Like,
he? Yeah.
there were enough like kind of like little like false warp signals to like have me not exactly know, because
Mhm.
you don't know what Section 31 is, right? Like that's a
Right. This
nothing
is
thing.
brand new. Yeah.
So you that's completely out of left field.
Yeah, I think that's interesting that is the hard thing going into this, right? Is like we do know what Section 31 is. Like obviously we're watching these episodes because they're talking about Section 31. So that reveal is sort of like spoiled
Mhm.
for you from Jump in the way that we're consuming this content. But I was like, it must have been, I don't know if you remember what the like reception at the time was for something like this to be revealed. I mean, Kuhn put like Roddenberry was probably turning over in his grave about Section 31, but that's why Deep Space Nine is so more real than shows like TOS or TNG. Right. It's like you're moving past this utopia, but I wonder what the public perception of adding something like Section 31 was at the time.
I think like if I remember, like I would try to put my back. Star Trek was on UPN. You had Voyager.
Yes. I was
Yeah,
watching that Voyager on UPN, baby,
yeah, yeah, and
right after MASH,
I think you couldn't go wrong.
because
Like,
everyone was just like, it's
yeah,
90s Trek. Yeah.
but more than that, like like Deep Space Nine, like like season 5 and season 6 are like such strong television. You gotta
Hmm.
remember, like it's 22 episodes, so like like there are gonna be
Right.
some stinkers in there, but like it's such like things were going like, oh, this show is really understanding what it wants to be,
Hmm.
and like it took 5 seasons, like but you're like watching and you go like, oh, like like Gene Roddenberry had another show before he died. Like he had it, or maybe it was after he died, but it's called Earth Final Conflict. And it made it onto, I don't know if it was UPN or anything. But anyway, regardless, it was about aliens coming to Earth and helping Earthlings, and is there an ulterior motive kind of thing, blah blah blah.
Hmm.
And so I don't know if Roddenberry was so against um, you know, shadowy type things. Like I I f- I'd like to think that the way that they rendered 31 would have been in a way that Roddenberry would have been happy with. I don't know
Hmm.
if like Discovery's rendering of it would be. Like Discovery's rendering it seems a lot more flashy and a lot more uh, twirly, as opposed, or man, twirly, but like just brutish, as opposed to like the focused mission that is 31
Mm.
in Deep Space Nine. But that's my hot take. What do I know? I'm just an amazing guy with some great VR glasses.
Um, Q was saying some people didn't like Deep Space Nine because it was too dark in tone, which is interesting. So I was looking at some of the reception points from different articles, and so I mean, back in the day, it did receive a decent Nielsen rating, 4.7, so 4.6 million viewers, which is like so funny that uh, the idea that you could get that many now is insane. Like absolutely bananas. But and a bunch of people have listed it on like their list of like essential watching for Deep Space Nine, which I would agree. It seems like a pretty big
Oh yeah, like this is
plot
the
point. Yeah,
this changes the universe.
yeah,
But like
100%.
yeah, like this is like, I
Yeah,
mean
nerd it.
it's not like alternate reality wormhole establishing like in the finale of,
Lower
of
decks.
Lower Decks.
Yeah,
But like this really, like I said, it added dimension to Star Trek that I was like really eager to see. But in the same way that like Voyager, like Voyager
right.
did a really good way of like going, oh, here is Federation morals or survival. Take your pick. And trying to round both is hard.
Yeah. Yeah, it's been marked like essential episodes to watch, not just for Deep Space Nine, but also like in the top 50 of all Star Trek episodes to date. This was back in 2016. So it definitely seems like one that is going to stick around. I did like Cisco's, like, when he talks to Starfleet Command, the idea that they can confirm nor deny Section 31's existence, I thought was fun. And that he predicts Sloan will try to recruit Bashir again. And he's like, but you should accept so that we can learn more. Intriguing. Would you have accepted the offer
Like,
if you were in Bashir's shoes?
no, like, obviously. I think, like, like once again, like, I really appreciate Bashir.
Mhm.
I think, and this is like me just speaking from a perspective of not being in the 23rd and 4th century, but like he seems like really privileged, in the sense,
Bashir.
like, yeah, like, I mean, like, his parents had enough money to get him genetically enhanced.
Mhm.
He's genetically enhanced. He has
Mhm.
all these advantages, and then he has the perspective of, like, oh, we can make this work without, grease, basically.
Yeah.
And for all of it, and in later episodes, like, there is some pushback on this,
Mhm.
like, but like, it it takes a lot of, like, support to be idealistic and an adult,
Mhm.
you know.
Yeah.
So I am not that much of an adult, and I don't have that much support structure. So, and I don't live in the 24th century. So, like, I
A lot of differences. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think it makes sense with Bashir's character that he wouldn't accept the offer, but it is an interesting thing to see if it keeps coming back around.
here's something that I asked for you, because, like,
Mhm.
you have a certain perspective on, shadowy organizations. And
Yes.
so my question for you is, like, would you have accepted? Let me ask you this: do you think Section 31's mission is, as presented in Deep Space Nine, is a
Mhm.
good mission?
As presented in the single episode,
Uh-huh.
I would say I would still have a lot of questions. I think I
Sure, sure,
would I would I would be similar to Bashir in that I would be really into some fact finding before I would
sure,
agree or
sure.
disagree, because it does seem like, oh, you're just like secret cops, and like that doesn't feel good.
Yeah,
Like,
but he says, like, we need exceptional people.
but there's a lot of organizations out there that say they're looking for
Yeah, no,
exceptional
no, no.
people.
I'm like, this is why it's very interesting, because, like,
Mhm.
here's like, for all of it, I'm going to jump forward a little bit. This is going to be a bit of a spoiler, so, if you
Well, do
haven't
you want
watched
to
Deep
hold
Space Nine,
it for, is it
no, no,
something that we're going to cover in these other Section 31 episode
it is,
reviews?
but I don't think, like,
Oh.
basically, if, Section 31 could have won the Dominion War, if all things had gone poorly. Like, they do a few things that, and
Mhm.
and they just did it. It just happened to be that Odo took a different way,
Mhm.
but, like,
Hmm?
the well, I don't know. I'm just saying.
Yeah, we shall see. Yeah, I'm excited to dig into more Section 31 lore through Deep Space Nine as we prep for the movie, which I keep seeing more previews for on Paramount Plus when I watch other things, and I'm very excited about it.
Cool. Yeah, I hope everyone joins, like, watches it, and, like Section 31 and 13 are like, it is. I wouldn't say it's my favorite thing about Star Trek, but it's the thing that, like made me appreciate what Star Trek could be, before,
Mm-hmm.
like, in a way, like, oh yeah, there is a counterpoint. Like, Deep Space Nine is such a good show because of this. Like, there's
Yeah.
the Eddington storyline where he goes, like, Cisco, the Federation, you're like the Borg, except you're worse. At least the Borg tells you that they're gonna assimilate you. You just do
Mm-hmm.
it slowly, and blah 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 blah. I'm like, fair, got a point. Got a point.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway,
Yeah. Do you want it presented in your face or slowly
like
push into your personality?
that's right. So it's I mean, granted, that's how people become my friends. It's like I just slowly
Wear them down.
And eventually like through like one of my favorite sayings is like in the struggle between the mountain and the stream wins, not through strength, but through perseverance.
Yeah.
That's me.
You much like the beaver, the dam that Mariner had to build in order to contain the
That's right. That's right. That's right. As simple as that, right? Like, oh, we're not gonna be able to do it. Well, when the river comes, you can't stop the river, so you build a dam. I got it. Beep 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 boop. There we go. Wormhole.
Wormhole containment, baby. She was just a little beaver. I have you watched any of the promo stuff that's like the behind the scenes for Lower Decks? Like they made like a real silly video of like Tawny and Jack in the studio. It's
I
on.
have not.
It's pretty fun. I recommend it.
Yeah. Okay,
Yeah.
awesome.
It's very much them not actually recording anything in the studio, but they're having a good time being real silly.
Love it. Love it.
Yeah, it's a good time. Well, this is our intro. We're going to keep digging on in so that people know we will be doing Intra Arma Enim Silent Leges.
That's right.
Leges.
Latin baby.
Next week.
Dead language.
Followed by extreme measures.
Also, like, just so for a plot recap, Bashir gets kidnapped. He gets put in a holodeck.
Yeah.
People try to convince him that he's a spy. He figures out the holodeck, and then that's how we reveal Section 31. That's all.
Yes,
Section 131 that thought that he was a traitor or could be a traitor, and and they were proven wrong.
This is a question though. Do you think they actually thought he was a traitor, or was it a test to see if he was recruitable?
I think there's a line there that says oh, we're rarely wrong. So I think, I mean, in this way, like, once again,
was it a little 2-for-1?
Like, I really think that Bashir could easily be turned that way. Like if you could think of who
in the way Ash
turned,
Tyler could be turned, yeah.
That's right. Like if you could think of someone who could be turned, like in Deep Space Nine, who do you think would be most turnable? And the answer is like Quark, yes, but but after Quark, Odo, yeah, fine.
Yes,
but after Odo and Quark,
Kira.
That's right. Like Bashir gets up there,
Yeah, totally. Okay, y'all. We're excited to keep talking Section 31. I'm super stoked for the movie. Let us know what your thoughts were. What did you think about the introduction of Section 31 in Deep Space Nine? What are you hoping to see in the movie? And we'll be back next week to talk some more secret government Starfleets.
Let's all have a great 2025. Strength and honor.
It's off to a wild start. All right. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next time. Live long and prosper. Bye-bye.
Bye.